That felt like a fish. Maybe not. Maybe a snag. Ooh. That was exciting. Break me off. Okay. Fish number 2. I think that was a pipe minnow though. Hey there, it's Eric, and thank you so much for watching this fishing adventure video. For me, fishing is so much more than just the fishing. While I love that, fishing for me is also about the adventure and getting out there, finding new rivers, exploring those rivers, and finding the fish in them. And for me, that's the challenge in making these videos, and I really hope that makes these videos sort of stand out from the world that is fishing videos. See, anybody can put a GoPro on their chest and go around and film themselves catching fish all day long, and that's easy. But for me, to get there, to get the whole entire process, the hike, the adventure, finding the water, getting into the fish, and then that whole adventure side of things I think is really important, and I hope those come through in these videos. So Battle Creek is my home river. I literally live 10 minutes away from this river, so I get to fish here a lot. Because of that, I know this river really well. Today where I went was fairly close to the parking areas. There wasn't much hiking, and because of that, they're really popular fishing holes. So both people come here and fish all the time, and they also go swimming. So that alone adds enough challenge where adding in the heat and the midday timing for this fishing video, it was definitely going to be a challenge, because what I wanted to do was go somewhere where I've struggled in the past and fish using this new technique, Euro Nymphing, that I just discovered, and see how well it worked. Okay, so why Euro Nymphing or tightline nymphing or contact nymphing? There's a lot of names for it for some reason, but Euro Nymphing is the most popular. So why Euro Nymphing? Well, I just started fly fishing back in March at the beginning of the season, and I've been learning like crazy. I've been learning everything I can get my hands on, and some things I've learned better than others, and one of those things that I've wanted to get better at was nymphing. I started nymphing, but I was using an indicator, and I had mixed results. Sometimes I'd get fish, sometimes not. Then I moved to dry flies, and I got pretty decent at using dry flies. The only problem was most of the fish I was catching were pretty small. They weren't very big fish. And so I was thinking that I wasn't luring the big fish up. I know there's fish in there. I've seen people catching them in holes that I was fishing nearby, and I knew they're there. And so I went back to the drawing board, and I wanted to get better at nymphing, and then I came across Euro Nymphing. Euro Nymphing, in a nutshell, means that you're fishing close, your line is tight, that way you can feel all the little strikes and the takes, and you're always in contact, so it's easy to set the hook, and in theory, you're going to catch more fish because you're keeping that. You use heavily weighted flies that are deeper in the water column, down in the strike zone, as they say, and that, in theory, should help you catch more fish. As with anything in fly fishing, there's definitely like this gear that's specifically targeted towards Euro Nymphing. You can buy a rod, you can buy a specific line, you can buy specific leaders. I don't want to go out and buy all that right off the bat, so I took my 5-weight Moonshine Drifter rod, which is excellent by the way, and then I took my 4X leader and I cut it up and I made my own Euro leader. And basically you go and get a spool of cider material, and then you can graft that into the center. I used tippet rings for the first time, so I can easily add tippet onto the end and keep my leader from sort of falling apart with time, because usually I kind of cut back further and further until I'm into the tapered part of my leaders, and the tippet rings sort of give you a clean marking point where you can tie to and keep your leader longer. And I went out and did some fishing. So the guy at the fly shop told me that I wouldn't have much success with my 5-weight. It's too heavy. I won't feel the takes, and so I'll miss a lot of fish. And he's probably right. I've been out a few times now before I made this video, and I had really good success. I went to a couple spots that I fished many times before, and I was catching many more fish. And so that right there off the bat for me was game on. Let's go do this some more. So this is the first time I filmed it, and I went to some holes where I've struggled in the past, and that's why I didn't really catch many fish. I went through and I methodically went through spots that I know that are fish there or probably are fish, but I just couldn't get to them because I wasn't deep enough or any number of circumstances, and I thought this would be the trick to get into them. And in the beginning, I still struggled, just like before. But later, towards the end of the video, you do see I do get into the fish. I caught a really nice rainbow, and I also hooked into what looked like a pike minnow, but I didn't land him because I couldn't get a good hook set, being like tight in the bushes where I was. But I think the concept is still a really good one. I would like to explore it further. I do see myself getting a lighter 3-weight rod that's more targeted towards Euro Nymphing because they have a really soft, sensitive tip, and then they still have a really strong backbone, so you can still land those bigger fish as if you have it's like a 5-weight sized backbone, so you still have some stiffness to get them back in. And I do see myself getting one of those down the road. Now, I don't really understand, maybe you guys can fill me in, why you would want like a really fine, like a nymphing line or a Euro nymphing line. I know Rio makes a couple of them that I've found. The reason I say I don't really understand why you'd use it is I never had more than like 3 feet of my fly line sticking out beyond the tip of my rod anyway, so it's almost all leader for the most part. But maybe you guys can explain to me in the comments, why you would want a finer, like a finer fly line. But I do really like the technique. So you get the fish really close to you. You don't have to worry about these really big, long back casts to get across the river. You just got to be in the river. You got to get close. So that is the challenge. That's the trade-off. You got to be stealthy. So you can get into the river, get close to the fish. You can get right behind them and cast right on top of them to get those fish. But if you can get in there quietly and do it stealthy, then you will definitely get into more fish. And I found that I wasn't tangling as much because I'm not really managing all this line. It's just basically right out there in front of the tip of my rod. And you cast it up 45 degrees and you go down about 30, 45 degrees, and then use that tension in the line from the current to just sort of flop it back upstream and do another cast. And you can cast a little further out, sort of methodically cover all the water and make sure it's all covered really evenly. And then you move on, and then you do it very quietly. You kind of you just kind of step across the water, kind of like a heron might do, trying to stalk fish of its own. So let's talk about filming these videos. I know there's some filming nerds out there that like to know the technical details and what goes on behind the scenes. And my biggest tip, no matter what gear you use, what platform, is to keep everything as simple as possible. The problem with all this stuff is there's just too many moving parts. I've got the Nikon, I'll often have a GoPro, I've got a drone, or I'll record audio externally so that I get nice clean audio. And all those moving parts, it's super easy to make mistakes, and then you got to focus on fishing, and then you got to, you get focused on doing that, and then you're worried about catching fish, and then you forget some setting on your cameras, or you leave your mics off, blah, blah, blah. Things happen. You make lots of mistakes. So I've been using like these, Nikon has them, they're these U1, 2, and 3 presets, where you can sort of pre-program them to do different things. And basically I use those to go between 30 frames per second and slow motion, so I can get that juicy, smooth B-roll. And that saves me from making a lot of errors. So something new I just started doing with my Nikon is recording timecode. I didn't really realize it could do that. It can record what's called free run timecode, where based on the clock inside the camera, it just sets a timecode. GoPros do that automatically. Many other cameras do that as well. And what that lets you do is, on my very first shot, when I get my recorder going, my Nikon and my GoPro, I'll give nice 3 claps, and then I'll give 3 clearly obvious timecode markers that you can look at on the waveform. And I'll let Premiere sync up everything by timecode, and that basically evenly spaces out all the clips themselves. Maybe I should do a tutorial on this. What do you think? That evenly spaces out all the clips, and then I can take that entire track and then sync it up with that first 3 claps that I got at the very beginning of the day. And I'm finding that saves me tons of time syncing it all back up later. Can't tell you how many hours of time I've wasted in the past syncing up audio and video between all the cameras. Super big hassle, and this saves so much time. I cannot recommend it more. Maybe I will go ahead and do a tutorial on how to do like kind of a poor man's timecode syncing. Well, here we are, we made it. Thanks so much for watching. If you think this recap was useful, please give it a like. It really helps this video out, punch through the algorithm and get me some more views. Helps me out, it doesn't cost you that much. And if you want to see my next adventure, I really appreciate you subscribing and passing this along. Share it with all your friends. Maybe they think they'd like it too. Also, if you want to see what's going on in real time, check me out on Instagram. You can follow me at CinemaEric. There I'm always posting stuff on my story, posting stuff in real time basically. You don't have to wait 2 weeks for me to finish these video edits to get them posted. So let's connect. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see ya.